Lights out. Just check my You should have something with you. Somebody click on.
Wow.
Hi. Use your laptop. Okay. You wanna, because they're next to each other? You gotta close that.
If you guys want, if you want to go to like a regional, close the door, I'll turn on the mic.
Okay.
And then we can hear what the wall,
Sure enough.
You said Helen was here?
Test. Testing for all our friends in Saskatchewan.
Takes about 15 seconds. I'll check.
About 5 minutes we'll start making please. In about 5 minutes we're gonna start making
Right in there.
Hi,
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and see that?
You have to make your way out to the chair. And then once everybody's sat, we'll make you sound good. It's just a matter of really. Yeah, you can be back here to see. Perfect. So, yeah, pretty much right now, I'm gonna start gathering you back. So that everybody's there. All right. Yeah, right around the corner here.
Straight in there. We should have coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, I got it.
Now that you're not traveling all over the world. Why don't I'll do it after. At least I forget you forget.
Yeah, I'm playing that.
Yeah. Well, I get out a little bit more than I used to. I got more people that are qualified now.
A little easier.
I don't know how I did the church actually. But this the business thing something.
Yeah.
Professionalism, sort of slide, even though you have good people. It takes a very serious. And I always, when I manage, oh, there. How are Thank you. Sure, you go right ahead. Just have your attention. Just remind you, if you have a cell phone, just put it on silent or vibrate so it doesn't disturb the service. Thanks again for your attendance.
Love can hurt. Love can hurt sometimes. But it's the only thing that I know there. When it gets hard, you know it can get hard sometimes. It is the only thing that makes us feel alive. We keep this love in our heart. We make these memories for ourselves. Where our eyes are never closed, our hearts are never broken, time's forever frozen still. So if you hear me inside the pocket of your jeans, holding me close until my eyes meet, you won't ever be alone. We both need some loving can heal, loving can mend your soul. And it's the only thing that I know. I swear it will get easier. But I could never replace this. Ladies and gentlemen, can we stand now? We make this moment for ourselves. Our eyes never close, and our hearts never close. Times like this, so you can choose. Holding you close until our eyes meet. You would have to go. And if you hurt, it's okay, baby, you're the one. Inside your pain, hold me. I'll never let you go. Come home.
Please be seated. I'm Pat Higgins. I'm married to Kris, Randy and Signe's daughters. And just say, good morning to you all, and family, friends, as we gather together today to celebrate the life of Randy. We all know it's a sad time in funerals, but it's also a time of joy and to celebrate a life well lived. As a family, as we were sitting around and during these times, the family gathers and we start discussing life, looking at pictures, gathering pictures and telling stories. And one of the really main things that came out of it was Randy was a good man. And officiating a funeral like this for a good man, it's actually an easy thing. I often thought, man, where did everybody talk about the guy was a real jerk and had to officiate a funeral. But truly, as we just sit and talk and you remember Randy, it was just, it just kept coming through my mind. He's a good man, and so I feel it's an honor and a privilege to, just today to just bring to remembrance some of the things in his life journey, his family. He was an interesting character, and often the litmus test, I say, for the character of a man is to visit a third world country. And when we were missionaries in Africa, Signe and Randy came out to visit. And I always said, Africans all have a PhD in psychology, because they very quickly can determine, are you a good person or a bad person? Even though they don't speak the same language, 80% of our communication is actually nonverbal. And they just have this sense, you either like them or not, and they like you or not. And that's one of the, just with Randy, he was such a nice man and character and really had, a warmth of heart that very quickly the African people brought them into their heart. And that's a litmus test of the character of a man. So we all knew Randy as Randy. His full name was Randolph Paulus Borsheim. He was born in February 12th of 1926. Boy, that's getting to seem like a long time ago. He was born in Stavanger, Norway, to parents Reinert and Henrika. He was the fifth of 8 children. And his family immigrated. They came in through Ellis Island, where in New York were so many people who inhabited North America came into Ellis Island. And he was 3 years old. And these were the pioneers, who came and, opened up the west of Canada and other parts of the States. And these people were true pioneers, and it definitely wasn't for the faint at heart. And I often think, you know, as I'm out maybe out in the cold and hiking, you got Gore-Tex on and thin slate, and these people came to this harsh land, and they didn't have all those amenities. So when he went to school, he didn't know much English. They probably hardly anything. He just came off the boat and made their way, and at home the children spoke English. They could get to their mother, but she would respond in Norwegian. And in the schools, it was total immersion. They weren't allowed to speak Norwegian, and it's probably a good thing because they quickly learned the language. He completed grade 7, but he only had grade 2. And one of the hallmarks around was he was a bad speller. And that kind of went through within his life that he was a bad speller. They lived about 3/4 of a mile from the school, and he and his siblings, they would walk and run to school. And I'm sure they always said it was uphill both ways. And it was a little school, 20 students, 1 teacher. Oh my goodness, imagine having all those different grades and be one person out in a little country school, but they did it. I'm probably sure there wasn't discipline problems in those days like there is now in school. Like that one teacher, I'm sure she could crack the whip pretty good. As a child, Randy excelled at playing softball and shortstop, while his brother Magnus was the catcher. I think all through his life he loved sports, and of course he loved the Blue Jays and watching the Blue Jays. He also loved horses, and when the farm, even now when you visit him in this little place, he had so many, you know, horse figurines and stuff, so he did have a love for horses. And as, you know, growing up, you know, on the farm there was a dugout. You know, there weren't nice, you know, centers like we have here, and hot tub and stuff. They spent the dugouts, and there was a river nearby where they would also swim. So Randy and his older brother Magnus and his younger brother Roy, they started farming together with shared equipment, and as brothers, they always got along. Although Roy recalled one time when he was giving Randy trouble, and Randy threw a block of wood, even with a scar above his eye, which he probably still has today. So, of course, as a sibling, Roy complained, you know, to his father, who replied, I don't know how the Norwegians would say, but yeah, you probably deserved it. Which he probably did. Now, Roy had heard about good paying jobs at the coast where their older sister, Borghild, lived with her husband, Augustine. And Augustine was expecting Roy to arrive, but when he drove to the train to pick him up, there were 3 brothers waiting for him. So 2 more joined. And Randy started with a job in construction in New Westminster prior to all of them going into the logging trade. And that, again, would be just such an adventure of hiking. Like, because back then they used horses and you know, hard work. And that's one thing about the Norwegian people. They weren't afraid of hard work. And you know, areas that they went into, those areas prospered. So now Magnus and Randy, they returned to Saskatchewan in the spring to farm, and then returning to New Westminster after the harvest. So now we go back into Birch Hills in Saskatchewan, and this is where he fell in love with Signe, his wife for 59 years. And now she was younger, you know, she was 7 years his junior. I kind of did the same thing. Grace is 6 years younger. It's good for us older guys to marry younger women, kind of keeps us young, I think. Or maybe make them old, I don't know. And but he claimed that she looked much older than her age. So he married, they married in February of 1949. He was 23 and she was 16. And they farmed in Birch Hill, Saskatchewan until 1967. But then they moved to Penticton to take advantage of the better weather, because unfortunately he contracted severe rheumatoid arthritis. And then he sold his shares of the farm. Now his children, Stephen, Bonnie, Grace, Dean, and Richard, they were all born in Saskatchewan, so they're Saskatchewanites. Only Heidi is, sort of born in Penticton. And she still lives here today. And while he was in Birch Hills, he served on the Winton, Saskatchewan School Board for many years. He was your typical prairie kind of farm person. He enjoyed hunting. He had a doctor friend that had a plane, and they'd fly in his little plane and go hunting. Of course, that supplied a lot of the meat in those days. But when they moved to Penticton, he did various sales jobs, including furniture sales at Marshall Wells. He even opened his own furniture store, a TV store called the Borsheims. And then in his final careers, he was a realtor for many years and did well. Going back to the spelling problem, at the furniture store, a co-worker once said, "Randy, you're the worst speller I've ever seen." To which he replied, "I'm not here to spell, I'm here to sell." and he was a good salesperson, and was able to, even through his arthritis and sickness and such, raise 6 children. And most of us are old enough to say we raised some kids. We know what that means. You don't know yet? No, that's coming here. And him and his family, and most still live here in the Okanagan Valley. They loved it here. They still have fond memories of the extended family, the community school, church concerts, picnics, while they were living on the farm. And in the beginning, as I said, Randy, can be summed up, he was a good man. He had a kind heart, and he had a positive attitude about life despite his hardships. The pain that this man would live in, most of us can't comprehend. Like, I get a little boo-boo, and I'm a typical man, you're moving around. And he just faced illness and pain with such grace and courage. And one of the other great attributes of Randy was he wasn't a judgmental person. I can never remember him ever talking ill about someone. I can never remember him being negative about someone or gossiping about someone. And I think he passed it on to his children. He empowered his children to make their own decisions in life. Like he let me, take his daughter, who was only 21, off to Kenya and live in northern Kenya in the desert in a tent. Never said, "What are you doing?" or "Are you crazy?" or "I don't think this is a good idea." He let his children decide their journey in life. And that was one of the other great attributes of him. And we all know that Randy had a strong faith in God. He wasn't a real demonstrative man and trying to grab the spotlight. And yet he had that strong, deep inner faith in God. And he believed that life's events were in God's hands. He was a man of faith. And while his health allowed him, he went to church, every Sunday in the latter years, just, sort of his physical health didn't allow that. Other things that he enjoyed were music, keeping, the vinyls of George Beverly Shea. I bet those are worth a lot of money now. the for collectors as the gospel, quartet, country song, and albums. And another characteristic of him is tenaciously complete any project he started. Again, I would marvel at this man, you know, with those crippled hands. And he'd be out working, you know, on a car. We were just talking about it last night. Remember, he had this, we were trying to figure if it was a New Yorker or Newport, one of those big Chrysler boats now that you wouldn't even be able to park it anywhere. Now you have to park it where the RVs parked. And, you know, he's there, you know, changing spark plugs. And I remember when he comes up and he's got the number burnt into his arm, like on the block number. And, you know, get under there and the fans, what he do? He changed them, and once he started, he was tenacious. And again, you know, as parents, these are the attributes that we want to pass on to our children, and they in time to their children. And I married a woman from that heritage. And they're get-her-done people. Maybe that's the Norwegian stock. You know, just an event just a month ago, my wife was at church, and there was a baby shower, and all of a sudden, this woman, a young woman, 36, just got little kids, falls down. And at first they thought, oh, she's fainted or having seizures. My wife, she had a medical background, but you know, have done CPR for a long time. Said, no, this woman she's in big troubles. And there was even other medical people there, nurses and stuff. But you know, it's just that, you know, get her done attitude. You know, jump in there. And she said that woman's life. They said if she hadn't resuscitated her, there's no way she would make it, because even once they even got her to the hospital, the ambulance people can hardly get her, got her to the hospital. They said only a 50-50 chance that this lady will make it, but she's fine. And so that's the heritage, again, that we see from these tough people, you know, strong character, people of faith like Randy and Signe, that, you know, pass it on to their children. We hopefully pass it on to our children, and it will just carry on that heritage. Like so many people of his generation, his word was his word. He never lied, and he stuck to his promises. A handshake sealed the deal. We were older, we knew what that meant. You know, now we have to have so many lawyers and this, and you got to have it written down, because that tended to be a virtue that is being lost in our society. He was of that ilk, that heritage, his word, and that's all the man really has, is his word. And Randy lived that. Randy, you know, really wasn't truly a family man, and that's what the straight, as we, you know, gathered together and we're talking about it. You know, and they were just talking, you know, one of the things they loved doing as a family, they'd all, you know, 2 parents, 6 kids, 1 car, all that luggage, they were always going down to Disneyland. Just put that image in your head. It isn't like today. You know, now you see people driving along with the kids and they got vans, and every kid's got their own TV screen up on the thing, and all nicely seated in. Of course, back then, you know, just like the kids laying on the floor, the kids laying. Like my favorite place was, you know, you lay on the back, and no seat belts and stuff, and just bedlam, and they did that many times. Again, those are the memories, you know, that this family will cherish all their life. You know, Randy was a bit of a dapper. He was, you know, he liked to dress well, and we'll see pictures of him. You know, he's got a fedora on, nice coat. You know, And so he looked good, he dressed well, he sported many different hats all through his life. He'd have different kind of hats. And, his brother Roy recalled a time when he wouldn't button himself up enough on the farm, because he didn't want to, he wanted to avoid not looking sharp. So he went, I'm not sure he should be sharp for the horses or what out there, but he did, like to look after them. But one of his favorite pastimes that all of us would know was golf. And he could often be seen at Pleasant Valley and Pine Hills. And I used to marvel at when you would golf with this man. For almost every swing, he would have to take the club and crunch those arthritic hands physically onto the club. And I don't really like people even cracking knuckles. And it just sends shivers up your spine. And he had a good swing. Sometimes, though, with that hole in the club would be up in the tree. But the really frustrating part, he used to beat us all. And he did. And that's the amazing thing. He just kept going. Again, a man with strength of character. As I mentioned earlier, Randy always loved horses. He owned horses on the farm. When they moved to BC, they didn't have horses here, but he still had pictures, big dollar paintings of horses and horse figurines. His children joked that he took more pictures of the horses than he did the kids. Right, more horse pictures than they pictures. He loved taking pictures. He's probably back in nowadays, everybody's got cell phones, everybody's selfieing themselves and shooting. But back then, it was kind of more of a luxury, and I'm sure he was one of the first people to have a camera. And he enjoyed photographing horses, huddles, cars, farming equipment. Sometimes he even took pictures of the kids, he said. He was a member of the Summerland Camera Club. He would go to courses, he won awards for that. And he tried to pass that on to his kids, that love for that, because one Christmas he bought everybody a camera for Christmas. Now I wonder how many people here have ever driven with Randy, when Randy tried. Yeah, that felt like Toad's Wild Ride. So anybody that kind of had that experience kind of knows what I'm talking about. There's sort of that mixture of adrenaline associated with fear. I think we were in Vancouver once with them, and I thought, oh, we're going to die. He was, cranking into reverse and not just gently go up on the curb, and then he'd be gone. We were just talking with Mike last night. You say, Randy always says, you gotta tromp on it to help blow up the carbon. That always blow up the carbon out of the car. When I was a teenager, I used to take that upon myself as one of my jobs. My dad really liked having fast cars, and when I became a teenager, I took that upon as one of my jobs was to blow up the carbon. So, and then you always have to be smart, and you have to think, how much, if I only put this many kilometers, I only should burn this much gas. Let's say if you want to go to sure thing, you burn up, if you got to go Thunderbird, they used to just suck gas. So then you have to kind of put enough gas in to know that wouldn't know that you've been tromping it. Another interesting characteristic of Randy was he was very impulsive. And one time he bought a new used car and he decided to seats needed cleaning. So again, he's just going to do it with gusto. And but to clean the seats, he used Ajax. And Signe was just incensed when it ate all the stitching up. So they had this new car, kind of clean them off, but all the stitching would come apart. And you just see Randy doing that. Now, he had a mischievous side, and he he had little jokes and chuckles and grins, and yet you had to, it wasn't over the top at times. It was kind of a subtle thing. You had to be watching for it. One of the things he did with the family, when he bought a tape recorder with a microphone and then later a video camera, and he thought it was funny to bring up controversial subjects and then secretly record the family's reactions. Even in his later life, and we know, as we get older, sometimes not the golden years, and there can be sickness and pain. And when he was in the hospital, the Penticton Hospital, waiting for a permanent placement in a long-term care facility, there was a lady patient who kept insisting that he was in her bed. And he couldn't convince her otherwise. So the next time she approached him, he pulled back the blanket and said, "Well, then come on in." So even, in these late years, that sense of humor was there. Or sometimes he'd surprise guests and he would come out wearing Signe's neck out. And he had another practical joke. He suckered me in on this one. And he did it to other people, and I got suckered in, because I remember they were visiting us in Alberta. And what he would do, like he'd say, "Oh, I gotta go to the bathroom." And so, you'd be sitting there, and he usually do it when you're at the dinner table. And he said, "Oh, I gotta use the washroom." And then you'd hear this, into the toilet that would go on. And then Signe was in on the joke, and she'd say, Randy, he left the bathroom door open again. And this year, going on and on and on. And man, that guy's got bladder problems. He'd be going for a long time. And then he'd come out with a big grin on his face with a bucket. He'd take a 3-gallon bucket, and then for about 3 minutes, he'd just keep pouring it. And everybody's at the dinner table thinking, "Whoa, is this ever good?" Again, that was the kind of humor that we had. When the family was speaking with Randy's brother, Roy, he said, "Randy's in a much better place with no pain or sickness. He's in the presence of the King of Kings. What better place can there be? I don't know what heaven will be like. Will we know each other? But remember, many of the family have gone before." And Roy said, "I think there's quite a reunion going on right now." In the Bible, many scriptures that talk of where Jesus has, gone to prepare a place for us. He's waiting for us. The night he died, we were in Canmore, and I was in a deep sleep because he passed away, early in the morning, and I was woken out of a deep sleep, and the Lord said to me, "Randy passed away. He's with Jesus." And so there's the scriptures, we read these things, and we've been to funerals, in my father's house there are many mansions, and I'm preparing a place. But Randy had a personal relationship with Jesus. And at the time, I didn't know that I would be the one officiating. But I just know the Lord just, wanted me to let you go. He's with Jesus. At this time, I'm going to call upon Heidi, youngest of the family, to come and say a few words.
just going to try and get through this. And thank you all for coming. To say I'm a daddy's girl goes without saying. And it's probably a bit of an understatement. He always held an extra special place in my heart. When I was small, Dad was off work with health problems and spent a lot of time at home with me. I always wondered if that was the start of a close relationship we maintained as I grew up. It's not too often a child gets to spend as much time with their father at such a young age as I did. He would go for walks with me, read Cat in the Hat to me until I knew it word for word and I could recite it to him. I think he even helped me pack when I decided I was going to run away from home when I was about 4 years old. But he knew when to draw the line. He wouldn't give me the money for the taxi or hotel room. My brothers and sisters say that they grew up with a different father and mother than I did. I think both he and Mom were a bit more strict in those days. But by the time I was born, they already had kids in the house for 20 years. I joke that by the time I came along, Mom and Dad were just too tired and gave up and just let me do whatever I wanted. Not quite. But Dad would do anything for his kids. Whether it was bailing them out financially, driving to pick them up when their bicycle broke down in the United States and driving them home, to taking documents to a courthouse in Vancouver, even though I could have done it myself. I know there are countless times Dad acted selflessly and came through for his kids, whether we deserved it or not at the time. He was always supportive and encouraging. And I remember him being so proud of what a great baseball player I was. And I really wasn't. Even the girls said I threw like a girl. But it didn't matter. I don't think I could ever adequately explain how wonderful a man he was. He taught us what it meant to be strong and to be courageous, to be independent, to be humble and to be kind, to treat people of all backgrounds with respect, and to have a sense of humor despite circumstance. Dad was an amazing role model, and I'm so proud to be called his daughter. Although I'll miss him more than I could ever say. I'm so happy he is in heaven with Mom. Or he will no longer be in pain. I will be strong and free. Since Dad's passing, we've received so many wonderful letters of condolences through Facebook and other places. And one that stood out for me was from my cousin Janice, and she said, "Thinking of your family at this sad time, yet happy he is no longer in pain and reunited by a large crowd of family in heaven. Gosh, I wonder if they're eating laksa." I'll miss you, Dad.
At this time, I'm going to call on Pastor John Schneider, who is a pastor and friend to Randy. And Randy always took so highly of us. So highly. And you know, again, and we know that in our journeys in life, it's people that we meet and impact on our life that continue to mold our character. And Pastor Schneider is our pastor in Alberta for many years. And I can count on the privilege that You know, I'm so glad that, you know, it worked that on short notice that you could come, because you, you know, had it away and just qualified them out to come share a few words. Thank you.
Just you. Thank you so much, Pat. Yes, and those are special days. I was looking at the picture and I couldn't help but be reminded that Randy was the kind of a man who is going to live forever. I love that picture. It's such a good one. There's a couple of verses of scripture that, to me, I was looking for something appropriate, and I want to share these two just in the beginning. I just have a few comments. Psalm 116 and verse 15 says this. I don't know, I always thought of this as maybe more for ladies, but I thought, you know, this really, really is something that is appreciated in regard to Randy. And it says in this verse, precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. Precious, precious. And Revelation 14:15 sort of enlarges a little bit on that same idea when it refers to those who die in the Lord. And it says there, quotations, that they may rest from their labors and their works follow them. I mean, I don't know if anything could be more appropriate, really, for Randy. You know, Randy has anticipated this day, or Sunday, I guess it was, ever since Signe passed away. No doubt about that. And in another phrase in scripture, which to me identifies Randy very well, and what Pat said today just made me think that much more about that, is the quotations, in quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. And I think that is so appropriate today as well. It was how I saw Randy. Every time that we visited with him, he was such a special friend. I know each one of you felt the same way about that. 36 years it was that we first met him. And he was a man of integrity. He negotiated our first home in Penticton with the board of Bethel Church. And one of the first people we met in town, and how thankful we've been for all the years, because that was our first home. So that was very special for us. And you know, visiting Randy was an adventure. It was over, especially, I'm thinking of Village by the Station, and mine's got so much more history than that, but that's where we visited for a long while now. And his four-wheeler. You know, really, every time we went there, something, not quite every time, but just about every time we visited him, something was happening, whether it was between the village